I know that you guys have seen me in videos before, usually like with a glass of wine, and I would never have called myself somebody who had any kind of like drinking problem. I don't think any of my friends would ever have said that about me. Definitely in college, like I think everybody, not everybody, but I definitely went through that phase of just like kind of like pushing my limits and seeing, like how gosh darn drunk I could get kind of thing. And I have to say that like even though I've never gotten in any kind of trouble about it or damaged property or hurt anybody's feelings or anything like that, that I know of, I just started to kind of like feel in a way that my drinking habit was something that I didn't have complete control over, and that that I was really alone in that I was like, I got kind of worried because it would be like, okay, well, I know my limits and I don't like getting really, really drunk or anything like that. But like, I would be like driving home from work and I would feel this like tug to like stop at the grocery store and get a bottle of wine because I was like, well, I don't want it right now, but like, what if I do later? And it was this really odd feeling. I was like, well, what if I do? Like, who cares? What if I don't have it? But it was like this really strange, like, fear, like, am I going to have like a less good night, or am I going to be bored or whatever if I don't have that glass of wine, which would always inevitably turn into two glasses of wine. And then it got to where it was kind of like 2.5, 3 glasses of wine, and then I would be like, oh, I need to dial back, blah, blah, blah. And then like inevitably it would kind of like, it was this cycle where I would just kind of like have to talk myself out of it and then be like, no, you're a really like strong-willed, smart individual. You can drink and control yourself, and you like drinking and all this stuff, and like there's such a culture surrounding it, and it's been something that I've kind of like known my whole life. My family never had any like stigmas about drinking or anything like that, and so like as soon as we were of age, our parents let us drink with them and stuff like that. We've always been able to kind of take things in stride, not be judgmental about each other and stuff like that. But it was really like a personal thing for me where I was like, am I really in control of this? Is this something that is like getting progressively worse, even if it's like really, really slowly? And so I kind of made this personal decision, actually after listening to an episode, oddly enough, of Throwing Shade, which is the podcast that Aaron Gibson and Brian Safi do. That is, if you haven't listened to it, if you haven't heard me talk about it on here before, like go listen to it. It's incredible. But it's not like by any means self-help. It's two very smart, very funny individuals just talking about like current events and stuff like that. So oddly enough, they had this guest. Her name was Nikki something, I can't remember, but she talked about how she didn't drink anymore. And she doesn't sound like she's that much older than I am. And I was just like, okay, well, that doesn't sound like something that someone my age would be talking about. And she's like, she read this book by Alan Carr, and it helped her quit smoking and quit drinking. And I was like, okay, I've heard of this guy before. I've heard like old interviews with him on NPR. He is actually dead now, so he died in 2006. But he put out all of these books that claim to help you quit or control alcohol or quit smoking. Or there's even one about like how to enjoy flying. I don't really have any problems with that, but I was just really curious because, everybody says they're so miraculous. And so I was like, okay, this is like a big $11 on my Kindle. I'm just going to download it. And so I did. And the more that I started to read it, the more it made sense to me. Like, this guy is not a good writer. Like, he's an accountant. And like, that's, like, I feel like that kind of goes even more towards this point because like, he's not really like a practiced, like, write to convince kind of person. He's not like a career writer. And so it's really just like a guy talking to you in his own words, trying to get his point across. And it's just really honest and really straightforward and flawed and really effective. And summing up the book is really, really unfair because it really matters what order you read it in and what state of mind you're in when you read it. And like, I totally like leave that kind of thing up to him. But I can definitely say that like, you skip over all of the deprivation mindset and the cycle of going, well, this is something that I like, and if I stop doing it, then I'm going to be less happy, X, Y, and Z, like, in this really aware, awakening, non-phony baloney kind of way. And I have come out of it exactly like they said that I would. Not just being like, oh, okay, now I have a lot more reason to stop drinking. It's like, no, now I feel more confident and happier and healthier, more optimistic about the future because I don't want it. And I can't say enough about it. So, again, I don't want to give away a lot about the book because I think that it's important to read it and for you to be in the right mindset to do it, because there's no point in going after something like that if it's not something you want. You know what I mean? You're not going to pick the book up if you're not like at least a little bit curious, and you're not going to be at least a little bit curious unless you kind of feel like you get something out of it. But I mean, it's funny because, you read any review that anybody writes, and usually it's been like maybe a month, since they read it, and they're like, no, I'm confident I'll never drink again. And it's like, the only way that you can really say that is if you're able to return to a mindset of before you drank. And that's what it does. I feel like a teenager again. I didn't drink when I was a teenager, and also I feel like a teenager in all the good ways. There are lots of things about being a teenager that I'm glad I never have to do again. But it's just this really kind of like pure optimistic mindset that it puts you in, and not in like this temporary like church camp kind of way where you where you get done and you're just like totally invigorated and inspired and like, oh well, now I'm gonna go live my life X, Y, and Z, and then it wears off. Like, this is just very like almost like you don't really feel anything. It's like an absence of urge that you're like almost kind of like arrested by. You're like, wait a second, like I thought I was supposed to feel more, but you really feel less burdened, and it's really cool. So the book I read is called How to Control Alcohol, or The Easy Way to Control Alcohol, which is kind of funny because I was thinking, oh, like I'm not an alcoholic, like, I just want to learn how to control it. But like, it gives you options, and it teaches you kind of like, how you think about things. And like, that was the decision that I ultimately made, was that just, I don't need it. And like, I'm 28 years old. I've now been drinking for, a solid 10 years. And I can safely say, like, this is not something that I want. So I don't want to like force this mindset or this book on anybody, because I really do think that like nobody is going to quit anything unless they take the initiative personally. But I just want to say that if anybody is feeling sort of insecure about their control of their own drinking, and, either to a small extent or a large extent, like, even if you've, like, gone all the way through AA or anything like that, like, this book is definitely what I would recommend to take the first step, because it's the only step. It's amazing. And I think that people that want to stop smoking could probably benefit from his book, too. I was never a smoker. I don't know. But if it works in the same way that this does, I can guarantee you'll feel like $1 million afterwards. And that's exactly how I feel. I feel like I enjoy things more. And I'm really, really excited for the future. So that is my piece on the book. I will post a link to it on Amazon. And definitely, if you do read it, it's a super quick read. It took me, I think, 3 or 4 days. Not a big deal. And just let me know. Leave me a comment if you've heard anything about it or anything like that, because I think it's a real life changer. It means the world to me right now. So, yeah. And again, if you like this, like, repost it, give it a thumbs up, just so that people can find it. And I'm gonna go hang out with my dog, who is slapping the table with a giant piece of bamboo right now. What are you doing, Ollie Bear? What are you doing? So I love you guys, and I will talk to you as soon as possible.